You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. And my feet have come too far for you to tie them to the ground. You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. Set my sights on where I'm going at. Ain't turning back around. You can't stop me.
Good evening and welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and of course with me tonight is joining me is Rachel Mann PhD. You know, a doctorate of social sciences, you've studied a lot, you've also are a spiritual activist, which I find is an interesting term with everyone kind of becoming activists and taking to the streets. I'm like, okay, how do we tie in this spiritually? But you've also done, and this is kind of serendipity because I moved to an auto booking thing so that my guests can book. We didn't plan this out. I want to make this clear. I didn't reach out to you on Monday and go, can you come in here? Talk to us about what all you've gotten into here lately. Because you've got a podcast going on. She's got a YouTube guy. She also has a website. She's working with Sacred Stories. So, Rachel, what have you been digging into?
Well, I just want to thank you, Aeson, for inviting me to be on your show. It's such an honor and such a pleasure. And as I said earlier, I just love the work that you do and your show and how many people you've helped in the world. And so I think that you and I share in common a desire to help people, right?
Right.
And to help humanity become better. So yeah, so I'll just start there. I describe myself in brief as a sacred activist, social scientist, shamanic healer, and spiritual teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been doing all of this in one way or another, or parts of this in one way or another, really all of my adult life. Specifically, I divided myself up into these, to describe myself, sacred activist, right? So I really came up with that term in the past year, mostly because after having been, in 2007, so now 15 years ago, I actually left my tenured academic career in order to become a shamanic healer and a spiritual teacher. And that felt like a real profound soul's calling. And recently, in the past few years, with everything that's been going on in the United States, where I live in Central Virginia, in Charlottesville, Virginia. And yes. And around the world, I felt a real need to foreground the fact that I have always been, on one level or another, engaged with wanting to help others heal and to help humanity heal.
Right.
And I've had a concern ever since I was a young child watching the Vietnam War reported on the news every night, the numbers of dead and wounded and so on. And I remember saying to my dad at one point, like, Daddy, why do we fight wars? And, why can't we just give a check, like money, to the other side, right?
Right.
So this was sort of a theme in my life that began to unfold. And
so that was the first war that was televised also.
It was the first war that was televised. Absolutely. Yes. And it was the first, and even more than that, there were live scenes from the jungles, from the battlefields. So it was really the first time the horrors of war got brought into people's homes. But in short, I basically have sort of two things that I say. One is that healing is peacemaking, and then the other is sacred activism for peacemaking and ending violence.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether I'm doing healing work with a single client where they might be working on healing their own wounds, the wounds of their ancestors that they're carrying, or whether I'm actually spreading a message about the fact that we need to merge pragmatic, practical approaches to creating peace in the world
Mm-hmm.
with spiritual perspectives, the inner
Mm-hmm.
work, right, of
Right.
healing. To me, it's all the same. It's all sacred activism.
I would agree. I would agree. I think it's a nice way to tie spiritualism into activism.
Yeah,
Now, your PhD is in Russian studies
right.
and, Slavic history and stuff. With that, what do you see repeating?
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, just to clarify, so I got a BA in Russian studies and a master's degree in Soviet studies and a PhD in Slavic languages and literatures. And this was all during the Cold War. This was in the 80s and, the late 70s into the, 91, actually. I finished my PhD just before the Berlin Wall fell and the Cold War ended. In fact, I was in Moscow the summer of the coup when Boris
Really?
Yeltsin, in August
Mm-hmm.
danced on the tank and so on.
Right.
So, what do I think has come full circle? I think that, as I shared with you earlier, Aeson, when I was working on these degrees, I was really looking at of the trauma that is caused to people from living under authoritarian regimes, authoritarian dictatorships, and how they manage to survive and even heal. Now, back then, I was really looking at, poetry and storytelling
Mm-hmm.
as a mechanism by which people access the soul, the power of the soul in order to survive oppression. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And so that focus on trauma. So this was back in the 80s, and this was actually before PTSD and trauma began to become more of a household word.
Right.
So back then, I wasn't really tuned into uh, psychological ideas of PTSD or trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It was only later, after I finished my PhD and when I was engaged in my own, I began to, I got into therapy in the 80s. I had a very, very difficult, challenging mother who was narcissistic, personality disorder, um, you know, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of in my 20s and into my 30s, I was really working a lot on healing myself.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this kind of trajectory where in my personal life, I was working on healing trauma. And then in my academic career, I was looking at oppression, right? Because my
Mm-hmm.
mother, in a way, was very oppressive, right? That's
Right.
narcissists can be very oppressive. And I actually had a therapist, a psychologist I worked with briefly many, many years ago, laughingly say that I was a perfect example of sublimation, which basically means that instead of dealing directly with the trauma or the perpetrator, you do it indirectly, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, anyway, I digress. So, where was I going with this? Yes. So you asked me. That's right.
Yeah.
Have things come full circle? I think that with, I believe that we are in a powerful transition in human consciousness.
Okay.
we're in a time of great promise and peril right now.
Mm-hmm.
The peril, of course, is obvious,
Right.
right? There's rising authoritarian movements, um, would-be dictators in the United States and in other countries, existing dictators. There's conflict zones and war,
Mm-hmm.
raging still around the world. And of course, recently there is the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. For like
And
the third time.
yeah, and we've got all the climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so these, what I would say is that this dimension, this aspect of human experience, which arises out of what I call mind of domination,
Mm-hmm.
which is a distortion in consciousness that
Mm-hmm.
arises out of fear,
Mm-hmm.
um, and out of that fear arises, hatred and an idea of I am separate from, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So first, there's a deep wound in the sense of a sense of separation that
Mm-hmm.
that I believe happened many thousands upon thousands of years ago, where humanity basically forgot that we are one and that we all come from a spirit source.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the experience of separation. And out of that comes the shadow of the will to dominate others,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So, and yet, one of the things that I talk a lot about, because I have two sort of like taglines or mottos, which is healing is peacemaking,
Mm-hmm.
and that we can engage in sacred activism for peacemaking on individual personal levels, from healing our own personal wounds, our ancestral wounds, to even then taking the wisdom of our own healing,
Wisdom of our own healing and growing with that or working with that. Rachel, did your internet drop again? All right, guys. I believe her internet's dropped, but oh, she's back! Yay! She moved.
Yay! I
Yay!
live in
All right,
the boondocks, so sorry, folks.
it's okay. We're
But
happy you're in
anyway,
the
so
boondocks.
are we coming full circle? I think we're in another spiral
Okay.
of experiencing yet again this shadow,
Mm-hmm.
um, of separation,
Mm-hmm.
out of which arises the fear, out of which arises the will to dominate.
All right. Now,
Okay.
I've heard over the past week or so a lot of people talking about feeling out of sorts, out of going like this is a nightmare, and then other people that have no contact with these issues being emotionally, responsively upset. And then another person that works within ancestral wounds and soul wounds was talking that's your soul, you're bringing up the trauma of all the centuries. Is that where your viewpoint is with that, or how is that?
Yeah, I think trauma plays a very, very big role, ancestrally, transgenerationally,
Okay.
because as I always put it, there's probably very, very few human beings on this planet whose ancestors, in one way or another, were not involved in violence of some kind,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, I don't want to make a blanket statement, everybody, but we know that at least going back 5 centuries and more,
Mm-hmm.
even 6,000 years. We know that violence and the will to dominate
Mm-hmm.
has been part of human history.
Right.
So the most important thing about this to remember is that none of the wounds of this violence, very few, it is not very often that the woundings that occur, the harm that is done, and the impact within the psyche, the energy body, within basically the soul, the energy body of a community has been healed,
Right.
right?
Right.
That is not to say that there haven't been many millions of people through time who have been resilient in the face of
Right.
these kinds of experiences. I'm not saying that. But as a shamanic energy healer, when I'm working with clients who come to me and they're experiencing they usually probably have their own trauma from growing up, right? From childhood.
Right.
Some of them come to me and they say, I had a happy childhood, but I still feel like I've got some kind of, something going on that is creating imbalances in my thinking, in my emotions, as well as creating blocks in my life. And very often when I do a kind of journeying, which is sort of entering into, through a light trance state, into the deep subconscious of that person, what I find is that there is some kind of trauma
Mm-hmm.
through the ancestral line that is affecting the person in the present, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know this in terms of the science of epigenetics,
Right.
because epigenetics has begun to prove that actually untransmuted trauma does get passed on through DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that this is a big, this is a big dimension of it. So one of the things I do like to talk about is that we really, part of sacred activism, in particular for peacemaking, in particular what I do, is to really talk about trauma
Mm-hmm.
and it's how it's carried forward transgenerationally, and
Right.
also how we can have an active role in healing our ancestors by doing our
Right.
own inner work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now I'm Romney heritage, so of course, I'm seeing the interlay because, even though
Yeah.
we've been forced to settle, we always need to know an escape route. We always need to know multiple
Yes.
ways out of a location. Like my husband hates traveling with me because I'm like, we can go this way, or we can go that way, or we can go this way, or we can go that way. Is that somewhat what you're talking about for our audience, or are we talking about other things being inlaid there, like a affinity for the Buddha statues and other things that people just can't identify in their life?
Say that again. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Are you talking about like inherent things that are like maybe not brought up in their raising, but then they have like an affinity to Buddhists for no reason? Or, for me, it's always, making sure I have options to escape where I'm at. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
you know,
Yeah, of course. Those kinds of things definitely get passed down. I mean, we don't even have to talk about DNA. We can just talk about, children observe even subtle behaviors, right?
hmm
And that we pick them up. So,
right.
for the Romani people, absolutely, right? I mean, their survival depended upon being able to know the escape routes, to be able to leave quickly,
hmm
right? And that kind of thing can carry on generation after generation, and it's a functional survival skill, right? I mean, for the Romani people, it was a functional survival skill, but maybe for you,
Right.
it's no longer functional, you know?
Right. Right. And,
to be that hyper vigilant, right?
yes, to be that hyper vigilant. And it does cause me, there's other Romney things that, click in. And it's like, okay, that's just, you know, my raising or my blood kicking in, as I call it, like that need to, spring is here,
Yeah.
let's travel, you know. But
Yeah,
when does it
absolutely.
become a block?
Pardon me?
When does it become a block?
Oh, when does something become a block? Right. Um, well, let me describe this in sort of psychological terms and then take it down to energetic
Mm-hmm.
terms, right?
Okay.
So, psychologically, um, when we experience trauma, and as I said about what you were talking about, the whole thing being carried forward generation after generation, being Romany of like always needing to know where the exits are and so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, that kind of thing is a survival mechanism that can be very, very effective. But the problem is that let's say deep underneath that there is a core sense of insecurity. And so
Mm-hmm.
let's say you, Aeson, have wanted to manifest let's say you wanted in the past to manifest your psychic gifts in the world. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And we know that historically that the Romani people who were known to be, to have a deep and rich spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where they could tap into other dimensions, and they had a rich tradition of of psychic, of
Mm-hmm.
intuition, right,
Right.
and so on, and they were persecuted for it.
Mm-hmm.
They were feared and persecuted for it. So let's say that that combination of the idea that I'm never really truly safe
Mm-hmm.
in any space, in any place, combined with perhaps the woundings of the persecutions of your ancestors, where people, may even have been killed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Right.
disappeared. Um, and so, on a deep subconscious level, that transgenerational wound then gets carried forward, and so you have a block. Like you can't. I'm saying this could be a scenario.
Right.
You could have a block in that one. You might not even realize at first that you have psychic gifts, intuitive gifts, but what happens is that they pop in a very, very random way, and it feels scary when
Mm-hmm.
it does, right?
Right.
Or you would know that you have these gifts and you want to. I have a lot of clients who come to me who have this kind of issue. Like they know they have healing gifts, or they want to be in service of others as an astrologer, um, or in some other kind of helping profession, and yet they feel this deep block, so they're working in a job
Mm-hmm.
that is so far off from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they know that this career or this job or this work that they're doing is not really satisfying. In fact, it's sucking them dry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they know they want to do this other thing, but they feel like there's a big block around it.
Okay.
That would be one way.
Okay.
Now, their overt rationalization, which I hear a lot from people who want to have more spiritually oriented, sacred service to others, will
Mm-hmm.
often say, well, I can't make a living doing it, right? Because
Right.
that's like the rationalization. But then when
Right.
I work with them and we dig deeper, what we realize is, oh, that's just the surface rationalization.
Right.
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 There's something.
That's the what I call the easy band-aid to the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah.
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 So so that would be an answer about how that might work on a transgenerational basis.
Mm-hmm.
So oh yeah, go on.
But
I mean, as you can see, you put a quarter in me and I just go like this. So,
I know it's wonderful. I love having
you can
conversations
just
with people.
interrupt me
Uh-huh.
and I'll just occasionally remember to stop.
Well, then I'm looking at my lifespan. Okay. My lifespan, I've seen all my life except for maybe 2 years we've been at war. We have lived through 2 terrorist attacks, domestic terrorism, an attempted coup, and yes, it's an attempted coup. If you haven't watched January 6th messages, you need to go watch those before you watch Mountain Bears. Promise you, your homework will be valuable. A global plague. How much wounding are we doing ourselves?
Oh, you mean like how much wounding are we, humanity, doing to ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're doing plenty, right?
We are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's part of what I talk about. So
Right.
my podcast series, which is called Destiny Lines,
Mm-hmm.
and Sacred Activism for Peacemaking and Ending Violence, I talk a lot about a destiny line energetically in terms of uh, the soul's reasons for incarnating, say, in
Mm-hmm.
physical form. So a destiny line, the idea of a destiny line is that on a soul level, we're making a decision about what kind of incarnation we want, and we're making a choice about the time in history, the culture, the conditions, circumstances into which we'd be born, the family, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have our own soul's purpose, our own soul's mission
Mm-hmm.
to experience, learn, grow, evolve, and in so doing, to serve
Mm-hmm.
through our personal experience. So what happens is that finally, when all of these
Okay. She's froze for a second. She'll be right back. There
I'm
she is.
back, I'm
Yes.
back.
So when all these things that we've chosen,
Right, on a soul level,
mm-hmm.
and I'm coming back. There we are.
Yep.
Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Okay.
I gotta love when spirit's playing with us now. The internet's really playing.
Yeah. I mean, I can be using the internet all day long and it's steady as all get
Mm-hmm.
out, and all of a sudden it's like I'm doing something like this and it goes completely wonky.
Right.
Okay.
So we've chosen these. Gen
Yes,
Z chose these experiences.
and so then when we're born, so we the fetus are incubating in our mother's womb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there's a certain point where there is an agreement between the soul and the fetus, which that they're going to be able to merge, right?
Right.
And that's about, many midwives call that period of time the quickening.
Mm-hmm.
It's often when women begin to report that, like, oh, they really begin to feel like there's a human being inside of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then we're incubating, right? And then the fetus grows, the baby grows, becomes ready to be born, and then energetically mirroring that passage through the from the womb through the vaginal canal out into this beautiful world.
Mm-hmm.
The soul, the energy body of that child is moving through what's called a momentum tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
The momentum tunnel means that in this process on the soul level and in linear time as the infant incubates, there is a great momentum that is building, a
Mm-hmm.
momentum that is building in the soul agreements. And then all of a sudden, in that momentum tunnel, the baby is born into the world. And then energetically, these beautiful energy cords go shooting out from the present into the future.
Mm-hmm.
They're called destiny lines. So this is a shamanic concept.
Right.
And so we have more optimal destiny lines and we have less optimal destiny lines, and we kind of have middling destiny lines.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us will come out and we'll get pulled into the conditions of our family situation, right? Everyone experiences wounding in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
We experience woundings, abandonment, whatever it is, right?
Right.
And so in a way we all experience that many of us have experienced the reality that experience, our experiences in childhood, then will often be very deterministic in the kinds of choices we make in our life.
Right.
All right. But we have free will is the point.
Mm-hmm.
We always have free will when we incarnate. What that means is that at a certain point, we may come to the conclusion that, my family has wanted me to be this person and this person, and I've been conditioned in this way by my family, by my society. But now it's time. I want to find out who my authentic self is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Part of the journey of the soul is to find out who we are authentically.
Mm-hmm.
And then to manifest out of that individual authenticity, which is a concept that comes from a very dear friends of mine, Mandy Bird and Chris Saadi, who've published a beautiful work called Tears. Tears are the source of our, I'm drawing a blank, but it'll come to me. Anyway, our individual authenticity. And so we're here to manifest that. So then we can begin to really shift energetically to a more optimal destiny line. So to go back to the planetary destiny line in terms of the deep shadow of oppression, of authoritarianism that we're seeing in, the rising up of authoritarian movements in the US, and the resurgence of that authoritarian will from Russia that's been manifested in terms of Crimea and Ukraine. So we're seeing that dark destiny line really deep in very much in a very exaggerated way.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we hit one of these points, we have a choice. Humanity as a whole, humanity as a soul family as a whole, has a soul choice to choose something else to manifest a more optimal destiny line. And within that, individuals like you and me, who are doing the inner work and who are awakening our consciousness, are contributing to that. And I want to talk about, what I believe is a great wave of peace that is building, even as all this dark shadow is manifesting.
Please share. Please share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. What did you say? You have to repeat that because it got broken.
Please
up.
share. Please go into what you believe is going on.
Oh, what do I believe is going on? Yeah. So I believe the 20th century was a big turning point in human consciousness. What I mean by that, since we're in the cafe, I'm going to take a drink here.
Oh, of course.
The 20th century saw a great shift in human consciousness. The two world wars really woke humanity as a whole up to the great harm and horror of war. And then, of course, the Holocaust of the Jews and what was done to the Jews, as well as homosexuals, as well as Roman Catholics, actually, because they were targeted as well by the Nazis. And so that horror was exposed, right, to the whole world. It was exposed to the whole world. At the same time, you had Gandhi, and who spearheaded, right, first the challenging the way Indians were treated in South Africa, in terms of an apartheid. And then he brought that to India, and he did that in India as well, right? So basically, because of his work and his spreading the word about nonviolent resistance, which was sacred activism for him, right? Because it arose out of his deep spiritual practice from his Hindu faith and spirituality. And so these things all came together in the sense that humanity as a whole was given an opportunity to confront the terrible truth of what we've been doing to one another for thousands of years. So that continued, of course, right? That trajectory continued in the anti-colonial movements and so on. And in the United States, of course, in the civil rights movement, the women's movement, and so on, and many gains were made, right? So we know this history. The Soviet Union fell, the Cold War ended, and democratization began to spread around the world. And so there was this great catalyst to create a world based on compassion, kindness, equality, fairness, justice, as well as finding alternatives to war through peace building. And so what is going on now? What has happened is that because of this great wave of the destiny line that is growing, that I call the great wave of peace, the great wave of compassion, the great wave of great and noble-hearted people among humanity, there is a backlash going on. So it's like Carl Jung used to say, Carl Jung said once that in terms of an individual person, when a pathology would show up on the surface of a person's psyche or behaviors, that it was actually good news because it meant it was ready to be transformed.
Okay.
So what we're seeing is this what I think is going to be the last gasp of this kind of mind of domination, of dominion. And I think more and more people are going to wake up. I think it's tremendous, for instance, in Russia. So I was in Russia in 1983 and 1991. I was in the Soviet Union. And people were so cowed. The KGB had it was less in 91, but in 83, people were so cowed. The KGB was everywhere. I was actually, followed by the KGB, a college student.
Right.
And, nobody dared. Dissent was harshly punished, which we see is going on again in Russia.
Right.
And it would have been unthinkable for people to do protests. Unthinkable. Right. And yet, to me, it's amazing, despite Putin, an authoritarian dictator who has this illusion that he's going to recreate the old empire, right? That people still have been coming out into the streets in Russia, despite the threat of being thrown into prison, and protesting the war,
and doing it heavily, which is even more shocking to me.
Which is what?
Even more shocking to me, looking at what we know on the Western Front. Like, that's shocking to see some of the protests go on in Russia, to see some of the protests occurring in China.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
20 years ago, that would not have happened. I mean, our younger viewers, guys, that doesn't happen.
No. No, I mean, yeah, these, I had a vision kind of one of these sort of, spiritual visions a number of years ago of people just marching in the streets saying enough is enough. And of course, it's been happening all over for the past decade or more, but it is increasing. And yeah, and I think in the Black Lives Matter movement, we're seeing it's kind of like another spiral around. Okay, so slavery was outlawed. In the 20th century, the civil rights movement, helped somewhat level, brought into the awareness of, of white people, the injustices, the inequality towards blacks. And yet we know that in terms of systemic racism, it still exists, right? Because many of these institutions that were many of them were put in place in the Reconstruction era, right? And so we're in another cycle of this of people beginning to speak out more. And I find this all to be very hopeful, despite, for instance, the Roe versus Wade decision to completely outlaw abortion, which is basically just another manifestation of oppression.
Right. And it is an oppression. And I'm taking a firmer stand with it. It's more than oppression. It's setting us back 50 years. Like,
it's setting us back.
The United States has gotten so much heat on the international level that is ridiculous. The things that are being said are what normally come out about China and about Russia, now being pointed at the United States, which is scary. And I said before, the Oompa Loompa got elected, that if he got elected, we would go down a dark path. But I still think we'll pull out of it.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think, so, despite what's going on, but yes, and I agree with you. I mean, it's setting us back 50 years, but it's not really, we're not going to be back where we were 50 years ago, because there is a lot that's different in the landscape around abortion. And I mean, this is not to minimize the fact that many women, pregnant people, are going to suffer terribly, that many children who are born are going to suffer. But I think that we're going to play this out, and it's being played out. And yet at the same time, the solutions to making sure women have access to an ability to end in pregnancy, we're much more sophisticated, and people are more empowered to do that, no matter what the legal consequences might be.
Right. So yes, there is a difference. Are you a student of history?
Well, yeah, I would say so. I mean, academically, I was always studying history in one way or another. And of course, I'm very interested in history. You can tell I talk about history a lot.
Right.
Right.
The reason I ask is I'm wondering when we stop this will, in your viewpoint, of repeating event after event. Like, reversing Roe versus Wade reminds me a lot of the 13th Amendment when prohibition was occurred in the 20s. When do we stop repeating this build up to a World War II? When do we stop this build up to, you know, when do we get off the merry-go-round? Or do we? Is that what the summer
Well,
camp
I
is?
like to think of it in terms of this. Um, let's talk about somebody who's, often people have to hit bottom before they realize they need help, and they need that, and they're willing to take the steps to change.
Mm-hmm.
Utter bottom. So I think that we're seeing the utter bottom here. And I don't want to be a patsy about this, don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that the number of people around the world, the number of people in the United States, for instance, when it comes to Roe versus Wade, who are awakened, who understand that violence and oppression is never okay, no matter what, no matter against whom or for whatever reason. And there are more people like us around the world in the United States than there were, say, before the First World War.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There also is a kind of soul courage that I see more and more in individuals and humanity as a whole. And what I mean by that is a sense of willingness to stand up and speak, that arises from kind of a spiritual power within that is felt,
Mm-hmm.
and conscious or unconscious.
Right.
And so my view is, and when we look, for instance, one of the things that I find to be very powerful and profound about Ukraine and their response to Putin's invasion, and everybody is gobsmacked, right? I mean, everybody around the world is like, oh my God, the Ukrainians have just shown such tremendous courage, and President Zelensky has just really stepped up to the plate. And
Mm-hmm.
even though the war is going on, and even though I personally would like war as a whole to end,
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that Ukrainians they're showing such nobleness of heart in the face of such an onslaught of
Mm-hmm.
violence and oppression. And I do feel that Ukrainians are holding a special role in this time, because again, what we are seeing is a flat out, absolute, wrong invasion of the sovereignty of a nation, the sovereignty of a people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've studied Slavic languages. I got my PhD in Russian. I know that Russian and Ukraine are related languages. They're in the East Slavic language family. Okay, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it is untrue that Russia and Ukraine have the same culture and the same language. It would be like saying that Portugal and Italy, or Portugal and Spain, have the same language and same culture.
Right.
Although, of course, there are many similarities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, in fact, this more optimal destiny line, this destiny line of this building wave of peace, is being amplified.
Mm-hmm.
The light is shining more and more brightly, because the darker things are, then the more that calls people
Mm-hmm.
to awaken to the
Mm-hmm.
truth
Mm-hmm.
that this old way is not the right way.
Right. And I totally agree. And I'm really impressed by the leader of the Ukraine. I think it's the first leader um, that I have seen that did not take the easy route and say, sure, send me a special ops team to get me out of here. He said, no,
Yeah.
can you send me some missiles and some bullets? My gun needs more bullets.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what's impressive about him is he was not supposed to be this big leader. Like, no one expected him to be anything
Mm-hmm.
because he was an ex-comedian. He was supposed to be a pretty face to go and do photos and sign his name. He's turned out to be someone with I think he's turning out to be someone that people need to be paying attention to, especially when we're looking for new leaders.
Yeah.
You know, and I have a simple way of getting rid of war. We start putting the leaders of the countries in a ring and make them settle it.
We do what? Say that
We
again.
put the, we put like we put the leaders. We make the leaders go into a room and they have to settle it before they can come out.
Right. Well, when you're dealing with a personality like Putin, I'm not sure that would really work. But
I think he has dementia. I really do.
you think he has what?
Dementia. He thinks it's
Well, yeah, but
1989.
but he's also a narcissist. I mean, this goes well
Heavily.
beyond dementia. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, he's been planning this. I mean, he's been in power for 20 years. He's been planning this
For 20 years.
for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that
And
he's atrocious. I'm sorry. I've looked at it. And from my view of him, we need a new. I'm really surprised that we are not seeing the Tsar repeat with Russia.
well, I mean, in a way, what Putin has done and is doing and how he controls the country is really very consistent with the history of the Russian Empire, of
Mm-hmm.
the czars.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I
You
mean,
know.
Nicholas, the last czar, he had illusions of the same kind of empire building illusions. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he actually invaded Japan
Yeah. And I never
in the
understood why.
Russian-Sino war that lasted a year.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I mean, Putin isn't behaving any differently than the czars. And, this is where you see very much embedded in a particular culture
Mm-hmm.
a destiny line that is constellated around a particular transgenerational
Mm-hmm.
pattern that
Mm-hmm.
is also embedded in repeated patterns of harm and wounding.
Mm-hmm. How do we reprogram that line? How do we straighten it out if it was strained?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, what I would say is that first, I am a big advocate of that we do our inner work. So, the Dalai Lama has said, and Gandhi said, Martin Luther King Jr. said, that the only way we are going to eliminate violence in the world is to look within, right?
Mm-hmm.
To look within, because those, I'll put it in my own language, because um, those imprints are within us, as I've already explained.
Mm-hmm.
So, sacred activism embraces the idea that if we want to change the world, we have to change ourselves, right? That's
Right.
what Gandhi said. Okay. And what it presumes from my point of view is that we have to enter into healing our own trauma
Mm-hmm.
and then continuing the work, which becomes a spiritual endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
to look deeply at the shadow within us.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the dictator and oppressor within ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
When we go into that dimension of ourselves and we begin to see how, layer after layer, and we get more and more subtle, my
Mm-hmm.
personal experience is that we gradually become more and more free.
Mm-hmm.
We build up a refuge of peace within ourselves. I always describe it as a place to come home to,
Okay.
so that ultimately safety is within us. So, as we each individually do this work, and I'm a very big advocate that energy healing, working at the energetic dimensions, which engages at the soul level,
Mm-hmm.
which engages at energetically into the subconscious, into the deep psyche, as I call it, is a
Mm-hmm.
very important piece of this. So I practice a kind of energy medicine that
Mm-hmm.
has been adapted from Native American practices. And many people, when you say shaman or shamanic, and I don't call myself a shaman, but if you say shaman or shamanic, people immediately think that you're doing something, either that you're practicing witchcraft or you're doing something that's superstitious. But the truth is that the spirituality and the healing practice of indigenous peoples worldwide through time have been and continue to be very, very powerful and very, very sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my energy healing practice, I'm using tools and methods that are, at least in part, drawn from native cultures. So, in particular, uh, from the Amazon and the Q'ero people of the Andes in Peru, and also in part the Cherokee, because those are the two lineages that I've studied in.
Okay. Very interesting.
Um,
Very cool. Now
but
you're
there are
doing
lots of,
something soon. You've
yeah,
got a 2-day conference coming up.
yes, yes,
About
and I'm going to be talking about that, all of this, in that conference and my talks. So yes, the conference is called Build a Great Wave of Peace, Sacred Activism for Peacemaking. It is a 2-day conference on Thursday and Friday, July 21 and 22. Um,
So that's July 21 and 22. I'm sending out the link now. It will be in our show notes. Welcome back,
yeah,
Rachel.
and I have an amazing lineup of speakers,
Mm-hmm.
men and women who have been working or have had worked on the front lines of as activists, as authors, as leaders,
Mm-hmm.
trying to ameliorate violence, create healing for others,
Mm-hmm.
and also spreading a message of peace. And so, yeah, so I really hope that people will go to my website and you'll see it on the homepage and go and you click, I guess you're going to provide it too. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Now, is there going to be replays for those that can't get to how's that going to work?
Yeah, we may have a replay, but one thing, if you register, so it's completely free.
Mm-hmm.
If you register, then what happens is that we are going to offer it doesn't even matter if you register or not. We will offer the recorded summit for $95 after it's over. And that $95 is basically just to defray administrative costs and so on.
Right. Because it
And
takes a lot to
actually,
post that.
yeah, my co-facilitator, Mandy Bird, who's,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, an amazing woman,
Mm-hmm.
who's
And the
a
book you were talking about is Tears Are the Source of Your Passion.
tears are the source of your passion. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's all about how working with our grief, both in our personal grief in our lives about losses and wounds, but also working with the grief that we feel about what is going on in the world is leading us into our true authenticity, and therefore our medicine, our work in the world, where we feel passionately engaged in being of service to others in the world. Yeah.
Right.
So Mandy and I, we hope to have this summit be maybe a twice a year event. Of course, right now it is particularly timely with what is going on around the world.
Oh, it is. It is very
Yeah.
much so.
And but we're going to continue it, and yes, it will be made available, the recordings, for $95 after the summit is over. Yeah.
Right. And that's well worth it. I'm sorry, it is. It takes a lot to keep video back up, to have it there, to also have the interactive support. And then you have a membership courses. It looks like it's a membership group that you do courses in.
Yeah, so I've already talked about how I offer shamanic energy healing sessions, and
Mm-hmm.
that's for people to come when they feel like they want to go into healing their trauma, removing blocks from manifesting the life that they want.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a 3-month mentoring program. So, in particular, I work with people who, again, want to take a really deep dive into you know, manifesting their mission and purpose in life, to removing what is blocking them from thriving in many areas of their lives, in relationship and family and work, in service.
Mm-hmm.
And I use a lot of energy medicine in that mentoring program, as well as many other tools that I say are
Mm-hmm.
in my medicine basket of love. And then, yes, I have a membership, which I call my crystalline peacemaking premium membership. It's a yearly membership that you can pay for on a monthly basis, or
Mm-hmm.
if you pay $330, it's a yearly membership. And I have 4 courses and programs
Mm-hmm.
that are in that membership. And one of them is about how to navigate and what is happening in the world today, and where I post videos in that portion of the membership that is related to current events and what's going on in the world. But I
Good.
also have in that I have a little mini course that teaches you how to cleanse and clean your energy body and keep your vibration up with a meditation and ceremonies. So the membership is really great because you've got basically 4 courses in the membership, and then I'm adding to it
Right.
month to month.
And it's always growing. Now,
Yeah,
I
and
do have
then
a question for your mentorship. Do they need to be local to Virginia? Like, is it hands-on, or are you gone to?
no, most of my work nowadays, I mean, even before COVID, I was doing distance work.
Mm-hmm.
But now most of my work is on Zoom. So no, you do not have to live in Virginia. You do not have to come to me in person.
Mm-hmm.
The power of ceremony and energy medicine is that I can work energetically with you at a
Mm-hmm.
distance.
Very cool. Very cool.
It is just as effective, just as powerful, sure.
It is. And, and I don't know, people really need to think about this. And this was something when I'm talking with normally a Wiccan that, has this big stance on like, do you wear shoes and circle no matter the terrain or whatever? And I'm like, the goddess's energy can walk through concrete. She is omnipotent and she does not care where you're
Yeah,
at.
yeah,
Same thing with energy. It's transmutable across planets.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my teachers from the Caro, it's an indigenous nation in the Andes in Peru, one of my teachers from there, he actually said, I heard him say sometime in the last 6 months in a class of his that I was taking, that his name is Puma Freddy Singona Quispe, amazing teacher of the Caro
Mm-hmm.
mystical cosmology, healing practices. So I think he said that, in the past, You know how, I mean, you're a psychic, Aeson.
Hmm.
So in the past, did you actually often request a picture of the person you were reading on?
Normally I don't. I'm one of
Yes.
the weird ones. I want to know as minimal. I need details, but I want to know as minimal as possible about who I'm looking at because I may look at that person
Yeah.
and they're going to look different to me than what a
Yeah.
picture was 20 years ago.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
what he said is that among their medicine people, that it used to be that they had to, if somebody asked for healing and it was going to be at a distance, they would have to have a picture. But
Hmm.
he said what's happened is that energetically, and I believe this is true because I've seen so much happen since I started doing my healing practice 15 years ago, that now you don't even need that, right? All you need is a person's name,
Hmm.
right?
Right. Yeah.
And to tap into that, their particular, I always think of just their energetic thumbprint.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that because, minus the lawyers, I used to have birth dates. Like I had to have the birth date from my guide to find the file for me to look at. Now
Uh-huh.
it's like, just give me a name. Give me a name. I don't need to know his birth date. Just give me a name. Let's get the
Right.
files and see what you're supposed to be doing. Um, and and I agree. I think it's changing. I think they have gotten to the point on the energetical level that it's more freer
Yeah.
to be able to
It is more
transmute
clear.
information. I think that
Yeah.
a lot of that has to do with where we are ending up in the astral galaxy, and I also think it has to do with the vibration.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm completely with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say more about the astral galaxy.
Um, where the Milky Way in itself is traveling through the galaxies, and we are currently in we're moving into that feminine energy zone of the wheel
Mm.
of the Mayan
Oh
separate.
yeah.
Okay, I don't know if I'm using the right words, but the theory's there.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean,
Um,
this tracks with what the Caro wisdom keepers, which is the lineage, it's tracking with what they're saying, that
mhm,
we're at a time where we've entered into um, the the rising up and the healing and the rising up of the feminine, and that does have to do with the movement of the galaxy, of the
right.
Milky Way. Absolutely. So yeah.
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 And then
Yeah.
my other thing is where we have shifted 18 degrees. I'm wondering how that is going to A, impact global warming. And I don't have the scientific brain for this, but also B, how it changed the molecular body of the planet.
Oh,
The,
you mean a shift on the poles? The
yeah.
poles. Ah, yeah, yeah. I don't know much about that. I'm gonna claim ignorance here. I mean, I've
Mhm.
heard things, but yeah,
Yeah, but these are things that I'm just like, I'll banter with my guide with, yeah, 18 more degrees, and you'll be solid, won't you?
oh, geez.
But it's been a joy to have you on. Please
Well,
come
thank
back
you,
when you
Ace. This
launch
has
more.
been really fun.
Yeah.
I've loved being on the show, and I love you and your energy. And thank you so very much. I just feel
You're
honored to be
welcome.
here. And I hope I don't come across as being too academic and eggheady.
No, you're what? Okay, stop the page for a minute. This is what we need. Okay, we have dealt with airy fairy alternative ideas for way too long. We need that, and this is why, like, I have a bunch of like 2 binders full of documents
Yeah,
of like you took this class and this class. We need solid stuff. We need these traditions of the ancestors who come back up and who come academic. Coming back
yeah,
with, well, this is how. No, this is the molecular correspondences that occur at this
yeah,
time. We've had the example, and this is just one that you covered tonight, and it's something that I, you know, have been digging into is the quickening, because my spiritual teachings has always been first breath is when the quickening occurs. It's when the soul really joins this plane.
oh
But you
wow.
brought up a
Uh-huh.
great point about the quickening because that's in other spiritual teachings.
Yes, I think so. I think it's in a lot of
Yeah,
spiritual teachings. Yeah.
it is. You know,
Yeah.
so bringing that academical side into this has been amazing. I've enjoyed having you on, and please come back anytime you want, darling. You've got the link. You can book yourself now.
Okay. All right. I'll do
Okay,
that, Aeson.
awesome.
We'll
All
see
right,
you maybe in a few months
look
again.
forward to it. Very much
Let's
look
have
forward.
coffee again.
Yes,
Or maybe
and
some wine, a little vino.
ooh, nice, nice, nice Rivino is delicious. All right, guys,
Well,
let's take a break, and then we come back. We'll talk with Joe.
okay. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Mwah.
Hi, I'm Tracy Van. I provide a blended reading consisting of mediumship, psychic, and tarot cards. A reading from me can cover any guidance you need from relationships with your partner or your family, spiritual, financial, any questions you may need clarity on. If you would like to book an appointment with me, check out my website, tracyvann.com. That's TracyVann.com. I have bookings from 15 to 60 minutes you may choose from. That helps if you just have a quick question, need an answer, or if you're looking for a reading in more depth, I'm here to provide the guidance and clarity for you. Let's just figure it out. Bye.
Hi, I'm Dottie the Psychic, and I'm sure you're wondering why I'm not wearing any makeup. Well, one reason is to irritate my social media manager, Aeson Knight. Hi, Aeson. The other reason is because I like to get to the naked truth about what it means to be a neurodivergent LGBT person with psychic abilities. I've got vlogs, blogs, and podcasts and videos all related to trying to live my best life and helping witches and bitches do the same thing. So, you can check all that out and get a reading from Dottie the Psychic at DOTTIEthepsychic.com. Safe travel and much profit to you.
Hey everybody, Lady Gwendolyn here, and I am here to tell you how to get in contact with me and a little bit about what I do. I am the High Priestess that works with shadow work to help you grow and heal. And I work with access bars, Reiki, I do power forms. I'm recently getting into crystal healing, sound therapy as well. So you can go to Lady Gwendolyn Healing, that is LadyGwendolynHealing.com. Book your appointment with me. I do in person, I do over the phone, I do over Zoom. We can do that as well. My main goal is to help you grow and heal, because I've been there, I'm still going through it, and I let my strength help guide you. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Aeson Knight. I provide tarot readings covering everything from love and relationships to your life questions and your spiritual answers. And also, I provide a lot of guidance in finances and divorces and all those relationship problems. So, if you'd like to get a reading from me privately, not on air, you can feel free to do so by visiting aesonknight.com and booking your appointment. I also provide on-demand services, so if your life is a little chaotic, you can go ahead and click that call now button there on my site. It'll connect you to Keen, and if you've not been with Keen before, you'll get 3 free minutes to talk with me, so that's great for a quick answer question. All right, guys, back to the show. Enjoy. Bye, y'all. And we're back. Hello, Joe, darling. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. How are you this evening?
Good. I see you haven't died.
No, I haven't died. Why did we think I died?
Because you had a salad.
I did, and I let him make it.
Yeah.
Like, I, because of this little problem I have with eating salads around him, I actually ate expired salad dressing. So
But it didn't have any pennyroyal oil in it, so you're fine.
Well, I mean, it was still sealed. It had been in the fridge for a while. It technically was best by December, like just this past December. So we're gonna hope,
It's fine.
it's
Okay.
fine. It's fine.
Real fast. I'm seeing this go around, and I want to talk about it. People are talking about using the herb pennyroyal. Do not use this herb for what they're talking about. It is not good for ingesting. It is good for killing mosquitoes, but it's not good for a camping trip. It's a very dangerous herb. It's one of those you handle pacifically. Do not go jumping onto these TikTok bullshits.
Well, but here's some of the problem we do face.
Yes.
Is there's going to be a lot of that going around about how to take care of, certain camping trips. And there are no good, safe, like, this was your most good, safe, legal, effective that we just lost. Most everything else has very high risks. You're camping. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle right now, but please camp safely.
Right. All right. I'm going to do some comments because it looks like you're freezing. Something's going on. Guys, we have gone through this. We continue to go through this whenever we talk about hot topic issues. Just be aware. All right. Hello, Brenda, darling. How are you? Marvin, your butt's going into my cauldron right over here after the show. And you'll stay in there for a good while. We're very sorry to hear about your loss. All right.
Yeah, I think we're both a little glitchy.
Yeah, I think we've all been a little glitchy. Of course, this is occurring. Gotta love our sudden not link. Donna.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do have a question.
Donna, yes, it is a running joke in your family that women on your mother's side is likely to kill their husbands. Very often, it's been a running joke in my family that way. Your people come from Appalachia, hello, where moonshine and abuse was going on. Well, honey, a well-placed copperhead can handle a lot of things, or just fixing a man a salad for dinner. Just saying. Foxglove, a little echinacea, a little Belliana in the dressing. Hi, Jen.
Back to why I try not to eat salads.
Right.
It's true. It's true. All right. All right. I think our internet's coming back up now. Good deal.
Okay. Can you apply Brenda's comment for me? Yes. Yes. Pennyroyal is not good for removing parasites.
There you go.
Now, please,
and
get some herbal knowledge.
Yeah. Well, and then there's this whole thing, totally unrelated, in which apparently a lot of women are abandoning period tracking apps.
Right.
So just a side note, because a lot of that data that you're storing in that period tracking app can be subpoenaed.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's reasons, like just making people
aware. Right.
Yeah, watch that homemade herbal tea. You better be damn sure I'm watching that for the homemade herbal tea. No. I already seen the KFC fried hobo that he calls holy water.
It works. It works. You just boil the devil out of it and it'll be just fine to remove any spiritual necessary.
It'll remove anything from a household.
Including problem husbands. Break generational curses.
strip paint.
It does not strip paint. Well, not the good Chinese paint. Possibly this new shit, but not the good Chinese paint.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Never gonna let me live down the night I made well, the person ordered 5 gallons of holy water. 5
Which
gallons.
is an insane amount. Like, I'm just sitting here going, what were you trying to bless, curse, or otherwise attack?
Well, apparently it was a portal in a home, and they were going to clean the whole home, which is fine.
By submerging it?
Honey, have you ever mopped floors?
Dunk the house, dunk the house, dunk the house.
Wash the walls, scrub the ceilings down. It takes about 5 gallons.
Yeah.
And I guess they were used to this commercial shit. I gave them industrial holy water.
Well, yeah, you gave them the high efficiency. Like,
Exactly.
just a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can get people to move out of your house.
Yes, it'll make people move out of your house. Of course, I would just, put a penny in their shoe. Okay, if you want someone to move out of your home, put a penny in their shoe.
Like, because I'll just tell you right now, it'll make you want to move out of your own home.
You wrote down my recipe? Good. And boil it. We're getting ready to go into a new moon, so she's got some time there. But also, yeah, put a penny in their shoes. Sweet. And another thing is, if they're leaving the house, wonderful. As they leave the house, let them walk out of the house. Get your broom, get your dustpan, and go sweep your porch. And your sidewalk all the way down to the driveway, all the way down, sweep the whole driveway. Don't matter if it's gravel or not. All the way down to the road. And then throw all the dirt into the road. So they stay there and don't come back.
Okay. Well, that works.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So we do have a question, and we're taking it.
All right, so Donna 111169, do your spirits have a message for me?
Well, we have the Black Tarot, so let's see what the Black Tarot has to say about subjects on here, darling. Or messages.
Yes.
Oh, you got financial changes for the better coming. All right, here we go. First up, you've got an opportunity, something coming to arise here. This will allow you to keep balances and bring things into order. It also shows you needing to make sure that you're not, taking on too many of the plate turns. Moving together, it also shows a partnership that balances itself out, Donna. With that, however, you're going to have to really sit down and lay it out to them. This is what I want. This is the path I'm headed to. And that will actually build you into a stronger position and allow you to get more aligned with your emotions so that you can start sleeping more. All right. So there's that. Do you have an Are We the Asshole?
I do, but I do also have another thing that I want to talk about real quick. I sent you a link in Messenger. But it's a quick story. This has started popping up. So Sheetz has lowered gas prices on 85 and 88.
Right.
Now here's the thing. We most definitely know gas prices are like, a pain at the pump right now. As one person put it on our friends list today, they got robbed.
Right.
By the pump. Personally, I think we've started carrying Vaseline in the car for every time we have to fill up. Don't know what everyone else's choices are beyond that. But it can be really tempting with these lower prices. And we do want to give a shout out to the fact that most vehicles cannot handle this, please check your owner's manual. You
Yeah.
have to make specialty changes to your vehicle, or it has to be equipped with those changes, or you will do damage, not the cheap kind. The
Right.
upgrades necessary are neither quick nor cheap. And the damage it will cause is also not cheap. So, especially looking at this car market right now, it would be a six of one, half a dozen the other if you're looking at buying a new vehicle.
I still
Because-
think that your sister had the best idea.
What's that?
The BMW that she can run on garbage.
Yes. Well, actually, she could run it on 85. Because that's the really confusing part. Is 88 is a very specialty blend of higher ethanol content. 85 is 85% ethanol. Please keep that in mind. It is not just a couple of notches different.
Right.
It is significantly higher ethanol content. Now, keep in mind, you can, and I don't suggest it, if there is an accident in which you put 88 in your vehicle, you might reasonably get away with it one time. This is not an encouragement to do it to take advantage of gas prices.
Right.
But you might get by with it one time without doing significant damage.
Right.
But you're also, because you don't have the specialty modifications, you're actually more than likely going to break even on the difference in price in fuel economy. So you're, again, right back where you started. So take all of that into consideration before you do it. Please don't if you can't. Your vehicle will not do well from this.
Right.
Like it's basically like Russian roulette, but there's 5 out of 6 bullets in the chamber.
Right.
Like, that's how this works. You might get lucky.
Right.
It's a very, very, very low likelihood.
And where would we find that at?
In your owner's manual? If you go to the back, every owner's manual of your car has an index. You're going to look for fuel. Every single owner's manual I've ever seen has a line item in that index for fuel.
Right.
It'll tell you what pages to look on and what your car can handle. Additionally, 88 and 85 vehicles are usually marked as flex fuel, typically flex fuel capable.
Right.
Somewhere on the vehicle and on your gas cap.
Right.
Like, typically, if you have an 85 or 88 capable vehicle, you don't have any markings, you're somewhere between 87 and 93. And you want to be especially careful, and do not do this if your car is premium only.
Okay. Well, I just Googled ours, and I found something highly interesting. According to Kia, ours is level 87. Specifically, do not use 91 octane. It will not improve engine performance or produce more power.
So that means we can use 87 and 89. We can't use anything over 89.
No.
87 preferred.
87 preferred.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do not put premium gas in my car.
No. And it's a weird thing for people when you find out that because there was this really, and it comes from like the days of carburetors and all these things, that if you were, that you were doing better for your vehicle if you used premium or more premium gas. You're not. It's a weird thing because we're in an age of fuel injectors.
Mm-hmm.
We're in an age of computer-controlled fuel injection,
Mm-hmm.
in which your vehicle
Mm-hmm.
is timing for certain fuels
Right.
as to with that injector
Mm-hmm.
to get the best fuel economy possible
Mm-hmm.
and run your vehicle with the least damage,
Right.
like the least soot, the least incomplete combustion, etc. That's why we've also started noticing over probably about the last 30 years
Mm-hmm.
more problems coming up when you get bad gas.
Right. Well, I'm going to put it to you this way, and this is really weird because my Spider Eclipse, you had to run 92 in it. It was a performance engine, required 92.
93.
All right, 93.
I know my gases.
Again, so be very careful. Read your owner's manual because if you've been putting premium because you think that it does better, that may not be the case. Because I'm going to tell you, Joe, the old behavior of us putting mid-grade or something like that, not for the longevity of the Sportage.
No. Well, and in general, you always read your owners, and it is a thing. If you've been driving for a while, please make sure, as dumb as it sounds, read your owner's manual.
Right.
And generally, if there are special fuel requirements, Brenda says, keep it up. You'll need to watch the next salad. Generally, if your vehicle has special fuel requirements, those are usually on the inside as well of your fuel door. As well as there's some other things like a diesel engine or diesel fuel vehicles. The opening on those gas tanks is different.
Right.
Like the weird screw up is you can put gasoline into a diesel. You cannot put diesel into a gasoline engine.
Right.
In terms of the nozzles.
Right.
Because the diesel nozzle is larger.
Right.
The gasoline nozzle is smaller.
Right.
So, yeah, like there's all kinds of things that they try to do to give you warnings and alert. Pay attention, please.
Right.
So that's my soapbox. I just want to warn people. I really don't want to see a bunch of people fill up and blow up their vehicles.
Exactly.
Because now is not the time.
Now, I will talk about Upcycle. Not sponsored Upcycle. We'd love a sponsorship, but Upcycle is working with, and it depends on the day. It's a market. But you go in there and check and see if, you can get a better rebate. Also, if you're using Kroger's, use Kroger's. Sam's Club, use Sam's Club. Take advantage of every discount imaginable. And what we done was we just stuck them all in the car. Like they no longer lived in Aeson's wallet. They no longer lived in Joe's wallet. They live in the car.
That way we always have the cards.
Exactly.
Of course, I'm still the bad one. And it's weird since we've done that. It's thankfully become you put more gas in the vehicle than I do.
Excuse me?
No, seriously, you've been putting the gas. You've been putting more gas in the car than I have.
Thank
you. You still leave me with a low fuel light and not knowing how many days it's been on every once in a while. And but yeah, which typically means I go to the gas station and I ain't even thinking about discount cards. I'm thinking, please just make it. Please just make it. Please just make it to the gas station. And so by the time I get there, I don't care about a discount. It's just like, yay, good girl, good girl, good girl. Is all I can keep thinking. Like, thank you for making it to the gas station. So yeah, but no, I've gotten horrible about remembering discounts.
I know. And Upcycle. Yeah. All right, so let's move into Are You the Asshole?
All righty. This is a fun one.
By the way, I want to gavel.
You want to gavel?
Yes.
Why do you want a gavel?
So when I make my ruling that they are the asshole, I can bang the gavel.
No, we're not getting you a gavel. Like, Judge Judy didn't even use her gavel. Okay? Like, she started, but then she quit. Like, leave the gavel alone.
Okay.
Am I the asshole for making my son eat off dirty dishes? This happened 2 months ago, but he's still furious over it. I'm 45 female. I love my oldest son, but he's 17 and acts like it. Our family rotates chores, cooking, dishes, cleaning common areas are all done by each family member on different days. My son hates chores and always tries to half-ass it to get out of doing it. It's been a constant battle. Dishes are the worst. He overpacks the dishwasher so the dish detergent can't even get on the dishes. It just catches on whatever pan he shoved in front. He also doesn't rinse the dishes at all, so they come out dirty and caked in food. If we want to eat the day after he does dishes, we end up having to hand wash them. He doesn't care. Any attempt to talk to him is met with a little smirk, and he would say, "But the dishwasher sanitized it." He knows exactly what he's doing. The day after his night to do dishes, I went to cook dinner. All the dishes were in the washer, still filthy. I had worked all day. I was exhausted. I honestly teared up seeing this bullshit. I didn't have the energy to make dinner, let alone do an entire load of dishes first. I quietly called hubby in, and he offered to hand wash the dishes I needed. Light bulb moment. I told him yes, please, but only enough dishes for preparing the food and serving everyone but 17-year-old. I made dinner and called kiddos to eat. 17-year-old sat down and saw his setting was empty. He asked where his plate and silverware and water cup was. I pointed to the dishwasher and said, "Tonight, you'll be eating off the dishes you did. Go pick them out." He went pale and started protesting that it was gross. I quickly cut him off and reminded him that the dishwasher sanitized them.
Mm-hmm.
Hubby backed me up. If he wants to eat tonight, he will eat off his dishes. He huffed and said he'd wash some, and I said, "Nope. You had your chance to get them clean last night. Eat off them as they are, or don't eat tonight." He yelled and said that he'd make his own food, which I said no. Eventually, he relented and found the least disgusting dishes and ate his dinner quietly. I felt bad. He looked so sick and grossed out, but I was sick of him wasting time in water and detergent. And it worked. His dishes came out spotless after. Not a speck. But like I said, he's still furious, and I do feel bad now that it's over and done with. I'm just sick of the weaponized incompetence. He doesn't realize that his laziness fucks over everyone else in the house. Am I the asshole? So clarification offered by OP. I made my son eat off dirty dishes and didn't let him wash them or make something else to eat.
No. You are not the asshole.
I'm just like,
Although
slow
my father
down.
pulled a different trick.
Okay.
Okay. So this is back during the 5 people in the household. I'm working nights. Husband at the time wasn't working, so he was supposed to be helping with the house. And sister was in high school, and mother was working nights.
Mm-hmm.
Me and mom come home one morning to find said boyfriend and sister up cleaning the house and doing all the dishes. When I'm talking all the dishes, I'm talking all 4 sets of dishes. Come to find out, Dad found a piece of silverware and a plate that was not clean in the cabinets. So he made him clean all the dishes, every single one of them, and clean the rest of the house. Everything.
Okay, something tells me I don't want to hear what the or else was on that one. Like, sounds like they were very aptly motivated.
I figure from the yelling that would have occurred at 1 o'clock in the morning to get them out of bed, because we have a teenage girl and a early 20-year-old.
Mhm.
I don't think there was much debate over the issue.
Oh, yeah. See, here's the thing. I have never been one to half-ass doing dishes,
Mm-hmm.
but I have had the moment where I did have to, like, literally wash every single thing in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because at a point in my mother's dementia, because, like, see, here's the thing. This is back in the 90s. Like, I wasn't getting good information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not like anyone pulled me to the side and said, okay, here's what you need to look out for. Here's not that anyone does that ever to anyone. You
Right.
just kind of make it up as you go along. You figure it the fuck out. The thing with my mom is she had always done dishes. She was very particular about dishes. You know, like there were things we did and did not do. Because mom had cut herself. You never, ever, ever put a serrated edge knife into the dishwater. It always went into a cup in the other sink so she could clearly see that is or serrated or sharp knife.
Right.
Like butter knives could go in the sink all day long. She didn't care. But what had happened was she was checking to see if there were any more dishes in the sink, caught a knife, and literally cut her finger down to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
So, big no-no in our house. You never, ever, ever put a sharp knife into the dishwater. It always had to go in a cup.
Right.
Okay. So, there's particular, like, there were rules. But mom had always done dishes. That was her thing. Never did it occur to us that was in the very beginning, that
Right.
this was something that, like, you know, it's doing dishes. It's not like it's hard.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, no one thought about it. Like, I didn't think about it. Dad didn't think about it, you know. And then I came home and I was watching it. Like, it was one of those moments. I came through the door. She's in the kitchen doing dishes. And she just kind of said this weird sentence to me of, like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I don't think these dishes are washing right. Like, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I go into the kitchen and there's not a sud, not
Right.
a single soap sud anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of looked at her and I'm like, well, what did you use? Like, well, what dish detergent are you using? Did you use dish detergent?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, that was the first thing I thought of, is because, like, where's your suds? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, dumb kid thought. And she's like, well, I've poured like half the bottle in and I just can't get a single sud.
Mm-hmm.
And she points over to this bottle of Cinch. If y'all remember that from the 90s, it was this household cleaner about the equivalent of like 409 meets Windex or whatever.
Right.
She had already done like one entire load of dishes and put them away.
Mm-hmm.
And was working on a second load of dishes.
Right.
It was a moment of, okay, Mom, I got this. You go sit down. I know it's wrong. I'll fix it.
Right.
And I literally pulled every single dish, every single piece of silverware, everything that I could think of. Like every baking dish, every pan, every pot, every lid,
Mm-hmm.
everything out.
Right.
And I stood there and redid every dish in the house because I was like, I don't know if it would have been safe or not. Like, I don't know if she was rinsing it properly. I don't know if it was safe,
Right.
like, to clean dishes with it, rinse them, and put them away.
Right.
But I was like, I ain't finding out.
Right.
Like, no. So, yeah, like, I cleaned everything that night.
Right.
It took all night long.
Right.
I was about dead by the time I got done. So, no, I've not been big on, like, half-assing dishes since. Like, it's, it's like, no, I get a little about dishes. So, yeah, not the asshole. I think that's a learning lesson everyone needs.
Mm-hmm.
That no, 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 no.
Yes.
Yeah, no. Like, I don't think this mom should beat herself up. It's like, you tried, like, let's have an intelligent conversation in which I talk to you like you're an intelligent human being whose behavior I can, change through a logical conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That failed.
Right.
So, as our lovely band director said, I will keep hitting soft spots in your head till I find out where the information goes in at.
Right.
I can't say that that was a bad life choice. Like, congratulations, Mom. You did great.
Right. Brenda says, tried to half-ass it once. Uncle took every dish, pan, silverware, etc. out of the cupboard and everywhere. And we had to do them all and dry them. And I'm going to say, put them away.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the step that everybody misses.
I think it's a step everyone hates.
What, putting them away?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, either that or you get caught in the crossfire.
Right.
Does that happen to anyone else? Like, you mean to put them away, but then before you can put them away, you end up having to do more dishes. And then before you think, you've stacked clean wet dishes on top of clean dry dishes. So now it feels like you have to wait.
Right.
Like the appropriate time. No, putting them away is not a given.
Yeah.
Like, no, I've never enjoyed that.
Yeah. So you are ruled not the asshole.
So not the asshole. Like, that deserves awards.
Yeah.
Like, good parenting 101. Like, you have at least fixed dishes for the next person.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm posting my relationship one in the private chat for you to read.
Oh, I thought you already had one.
No. There you go.
Okay. Ooh. I found my boyfriend on a gay hookup website. My boyfriend, 24 male, and I, 25 female, have been together for 4 years. The other day, while I was trying to help him figure something out on his phone, I stumbled across his profile on a gay, bi-curious hookup website for men. I didn't mean to find it. I wasn't snooping. I had absolutely no idea anything like that would be on his phone. When he saw what I saw, he immediately grabbed his phone and said it was something for work, but I could tell he was lying, so I went and looked up the website and figured out what it was. I even found his specific profile where he described himself, listed himself as curious, and listed specific things he was interested in trying. It took 3 times of me asking him about it before he admitted what it was, and when he did, he swore that he only got it because he was interested in what anal penetration felt like and wanted to ask someone who experienced it. He immediately deleted the profile on the website and pleaded with me to believe him. He claims it was a stupid mistake and he was just curious, and that he had made it less than 24 hours before I found it. We talked about it for a long time. I even told him that if he was curious but didn't want to out himself yet, that we could break up and I would tell everyone it was over some stupid fight or something like that so he wouldn't have to out himself yet. He promises me that he isn't gay or even questioning it. But how can I believe him when he lied to my face numerous times right before all of this? He's never lied to me about anything like this before, and it crushed me to see how quickly he was able to lie to try and cover it up. I want to believe him so badly. I've known since early in our relationship that anal penetration has always been interesting to him, and we've talked about it and talked about bringing it into our relationship at some point. Most of his story honestly makes sense to me, but I can't stop myself from worrying that he's lying and it's causing me to spiral. What if he was seriously looking to hook up with one of them? What if he actually is questioning his sexual identity? What if he needs more than I am willing or able to give him in the bedroom, etc., etc., etc.? I do not care about his sexual identity at all, but if he is questioning, that is not something I can help him with. And the last thing I want is to forgive him now, only for this or something similar or worse to happen the next time he gets too curious. I've had a friend whose boyfriend left her after 5 years because he decided he was curious, and I don't want to put myself in her shoes willingly. It is a different situation, but I saw her go through that, and I cannot stop thinking about it. I've checked that website every day since to see if he's remade the profile. I'm reading into everything he's doing, and I know that's not okay or healthy at all. It's only been a few days since all of this happened, but I'm so lost and confused on how to even go about handling the situation. Our relationship has been wonderful until I found this. We've always been so great at communicating and being able to go to the other person without fear of judgment or anything. So not only am I upset at what I found, but I'm upset that he didn't feel comfortable coming to me about it and that he lied to me about it when I found it. Please help. I'm at a complete and total loss on what to do.
You got to be questioning, and you need to have more open conversations. And yeah, you help with his sexual identity because you're trying to put labels on him before he's even ready to.
Here's the thing I'm having with this one. I don't know that he's lying.
I don't know.
I really thought early on in reading this one, I'm like, yeah, he lied. Like, he's doing everything he can to try to cover it up. He's lying. But then she immediately says, well, we talked about it at the beginning of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, y'all been together that you would do this at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're 4 years in. Obviously, you haven't.
Right.
So, and you don't seem to take this as like maybe, I don't know, you knew this and like he might be telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've really jumped straight into like he's lying, questioning his sexuality, lying about questioning his sexuality, and you decided to spiral through this even though it's information you already knew.
Exactly.
Like, what?
Furthermore, my bigger issue with this is two thoughts. One, how stupid is he?
Okay.
For instance, there was something on my phone that I didn't want you to see. How am I handing you my phone without making sure I remove that? First off. Second off, eventually bring it into the relationship. When's the eventual?
Hey, there you go. I'm getting data now. You're moving again. Yeah, like and I get curiosity and stuff, but and maybe she didn't read as much into it. Like, kind of as Brenda's saying, it might be some point now. Then again, I've had conversations about things I didn't plan on trying at that time.
Right.
I get that. But it sounds like she heard it, she stored it, she even regurgitated it, but like it just went in and sat there and did nothing. And I'm going, well, it sounds like there's more to it.
Right.
Like like I don't think she just took this information in and went, okay, we'll try it in the future. And like they just haven't had time. I'm going, I think maybe you didn't want to do that.
Right. And you didn't lay a clear boundary.
Right. Well, you didn't set a boundary, but at the same time, you just kind of went, oh, maybe another time, maybe next week, maybe like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like she's put him off, and she forgot to mention that part.
Right.
At least to the point in which he just quit asking.
Right.
Like, okay, this is like he heard what she fundamentally was saying, not what she actually said.
Right, which is, I'm not interested in that. So now you've got yourself into this quandary. You went into a negotiation, you ignored the offers on the table, and you've gotten yourself set up into this spot. Well, you got two choices. You can either sit down and have an honest conversation about where this curiosity goes, or you can walk away. Your choice. But it sounds to me like you've got an inherent nature of some problems there.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those situations like, here's your great big red flag if you're planning on getting married soon. Like, if you've been sitting over here thinking like, oh, we have such a wonderful, amazing relationship with great communication and everything's great.
No,
you don't.
No, you
don't. Like, and I think that's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sorry, that's a double-way street. If you don't listen to your partner, if you don't hear what your partner tells you, if you don't hear the words I need out of your partner, then you got a problem. Like, I need needs to be like, shut down, pay attention.
Basically.
Yeah, and she probably went to, oh, look, let me attack you. That's not how you do it.
Well, but then here's the thing. Like, even, like, because the way she's phrasing it, like, and I'm going to go out on a limb, the way she's phrasing everything, I don't think she just kindly said, let's have an open dialogue about what's going on here. No, I don't think that's how you reacted. I think probably the way you reacted, or at least the way it I'm sure hit him, was, are you gay? Like, am I dating a gay man? Are you gay? Do you want, like, I'm not, able to give you that. Do you want someone else? Should we break up?
Right.
Okay, here's the thing with that, is that's a lot. Like, it is a lot to throw all of that out.
Right.
At one moment. Like, no.
Yeah. Right. And furthermore, she's doing a little over diligence. I doubt that it's Grindr because it says it's a website, not an app. Probably I would say that this, again, you have to be looking for something for her to be finding this. So obviously she already has a suspicion.
Well, I'm thinking the one of two ways is either he had an open tab he forgot about, or she started typing a web address and was like, what is that website? I've never seen that website. It sounds, like I don't know, like because there's a few different websites, like Adam for Adam, like you know what I mean. But I would think that if someone saw that, you're gonna be like, what's that?
Right.
Yeah, you can't find what you don't. Nah. I mean, there are sometimes things that like I think people see in a relationship that you're not looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think that happens inevitably.
Right.
I think you also have to take a moment with that and go, is this really something I want to dig in on?
Right.
Or is this something I want to let slide?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this really, I've tried to always, I will let a fair amount of things slide.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's like, you know what? I don't know what that was or why that was,
Mm-hmm.
but do I need to?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying it's falling out of my brain 5 seconds later. It's probably going into a dusty cabinet in the corner. And it'll like piece together later if it needs to, like, oh, that's what that was.
Uh-huh.
But usually when I do that, it does piece together with something later, and it's usually nothing near what I would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you take that first reaction of like, what the hell is this?
Right.
Like, my first reaction might be, okay, this doesn't look good.
Right.
But usually, like, pretty much every time, really, like our relationship, other relationships, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever, it's ended up being a thing of like it relates to something later, but nowhere near what I thought it would be, especially if it's something way out of character.
Right.
Like, if this doesn't like immediately ring a bell,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh well, obviously. If it doesn't ring a bell, usually like it's probably something kind of weird, different, benign, whatever.
Right. Well,
Like I will say, oh, go ahead.
and for me, I have this old adage: give them enough rope to hang themselves. I will let things slide. I will let things ride. I will let them blow. I will let them change. I will go with the flow. And then it's okay, that's enough of that. Or, okay, here's the list of my negotiational terms. Unless it's a red line.
Yeah, I will say, like, there's probably a fair amount of stuff I would let you, like, if I were to pick up your phone and randomly see, I would say that probably, like, compared to, like, exes, you would probably get the most leeway because I know you're talking to people all day long
Uh-huh.
that are in various forms of a relationship, situationship, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that you may get hit with like words and things that it's like, what the fuck is that?
Right.
And so, like, if you go looking up something that's like, that's weird,
Uh-huh.
I think if I saw it, my first reaction for like you specifically would be like, I'm sure that was a fun client.
Well, and you get that, but also I've always told you, if it's on my phone, if it's on my computer, then you have free access to it.
Yeah, see, here's the thing though, I don't care.
I know.
Like, here's my whole thing. I always thought, like, and y'all can blow up on me in the comments if you want it. I always think it's dumb. It's just the most dumb waste of energy to go sit there with the anxiety of, is he cheating on me? Would he cheat on me? Does he like her more than me? Does he like him more than me? And drive yourself crazy with all this energy because one or two things are true.
Mm-hmm.
either you're totally effing wrong,
Mhm.
in which case it's a total waste,
Right.
or you're absolutely right, in which case, is it worth the effort to sit there and catch them? Like, is it really? Is this how you live your best life? Like, sitting there just waiting for someone to F up?
Mhm.
Because I always think when people do that, it's like your relationship has other problems. You're just looking for someone to be like the A1 asshole in your relationship that you can pin all the blame on.
Mhm.
Like, you've already decided this relationship is dead.
Mhm.
You just need an exit ramp.
Mhm.
And like, you're looking for one of the big ones.
Right.
So that you get out scot-free and don't sound stupid for being like, he just wasn't right for me, or she just wasn't right for me, or they just weren't right for me.
Right.
And I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm like, why not just be honest and be like, you know what? This isn't working.
Right.
And just be done.
Right.
And no one has to be the bad guy or the bad girl or the bad whatever, and you just move on with your lives.
Exactly. And, Brenda puts out, if they're going to cheat, they will. If they are going to leave, they will. And here's the other part of that. If you tell them to go cheat, they will. And what I mean by that is if you constantly accuse someone that is loyal, someone that really wants a monogamous relationship, fully open and honest, and you keep going, oh, you're cheating. Oh, you're cheating. You're 5 minutes late from work. You're cheating. What'd you do? Hook up with the secretary on the way home? You will drive them away. You will make that occur because they will eventually hear that you want them to cheat.
Well, and here's the other thing, because I grew up with a dad that was really bad for being suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of it's really complicated, but short version, dad got away with a lot of shit,
Mm-hmm.
and did a lot of shit. So he assumed because he knew what he was getting away with, you must be getting away with shit too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like this always plays out. The people that like constantly accuse you of shit are usually people doing shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why. Well, I do. It's guilt. Totally misplaced guilt, but guilt nonetheless. They know what they're getting away with. So they assume you're getting away with things. So dad used to constantly be suspicious and like, like throw these things out. And it's kind of funny,
Mm-hmm.
but like my siblings and I all kind of got the same message after a point.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, like the same light bulb went off for almost all of us.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to keep accusing me of doing something,
Right.
and I'm going to have to sit here and defend myself against it,
Mm-hmm.
at some point, I've done enough time, I'm going to go do the crime.
Mm-hmm.
Because fuck it. I'm already going to be accused of it. If I'm already going to have to defend myself against it,
Mm-hmm.
I might as well go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Brenda's like, I had the same dad, Joe.
All right, so we do have a question from Ashley, but my relationship advice for this one is sit down and figure out what your terms of agreement are. What is the price of admission you're willing to pay to continue this relationship? If your level of price is too high, then honey, it's time to choose another show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, so you want to grab Ashley's question?
Yes. So Ashley 82696 is the move I'm planning to make soon going to happen. I need it for my sanity.
Well, first up we have the sun, which shows you need to be focusing on your sanity to begin with. Secondly, we have the Queen of Wands, which means you've got the knowledge here, and the Hierophant shows you following the traditional path. So in general, yes, it will happen. What I find interesting is the two major arcana is like, oh yeah, it's going to happen, but it's going to happen in a bigger way than you think it is. So you need to be focusing on yourself and begin getting yourself ready for that move. Because it may be a multiple move than what you're thinking about. All right. Well, guys, we're at that 2:15 hour. It's been a really amazing show. I had some really great conversation with Rachel Mann, PhD. Go check out our websites. And it was really nice talking with Joe. Y'all guys think that, and I'm going to remind people, this is hard times. This is time for you to start laying out your ground and allow yourselves to be really pulling yourselves up, but also looking at what you're taking in. Sometimes you have to disconnect. Disconnect from social media, disconnect just because it's too much. You're getting too much impulse there. Turn off the damn news sometimes to get your sanity. Get back to basics. Work with communication within your relationship. I'm talking every relationship requires communication. Get out your terms of agreement and your terms of where you'll put together. Yep. And Ashley, we miss you too. And Friday, remember, we also now have a Thursday show of Coffee and Tea. Now, this week's one will be a roundtable. I'm having all my co-hosts at the table. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting. I don't know how we're all going to fit on screen. We may look like little dots to you, but all 6 of the co-hosts are sitting down for coffee and tea. And I'm going to play Run Robin with questions, which is where everyone gets asked the same question. If you get a reading, we're gonna pull out of the hat who's giving the reading, and it could even be Joe.
What?
Yes. Wait, what? You heard me.
Oh, Ashley, I think you have missed a couple of barista chats. Side note:
this Wednesday is barista chat.
Yes. So tomorrow,
get
your barista chat.
I'm putting it out on Patreon and the Facebook group for the barista chat. New baristas, I hope you do come and join us for barista chat. That is your private time with us to talk about a lot of things, and for us to not have to debate the parasite versus camping trips. Or to talk about the panini. It is your time with us, and we can talk about things that are going on with things. It will be at 8 p.m. Barista chats are always the last Wednesday at 8 p.m. If you want to become a barista, there's still time to get into that chat. You can go join now.
Yes.
And really support growing all the network itself, because the baristas actually help us grow our network. They've enabled us to do another show. They've enabled us with a lot of ideas, and they keep us going. So if you guys want to learn about that, go to pcspnetwork.com. But Joe, who are our baristas? Let's highlight our baristas, please.
Alrighty, so of course we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, Ashley Gist, Shannon C, Shannon D, the ever wonderful Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Dottie the Psychic, Tracy Van, and the Laughing Tree Grove. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yep. You guys have an amazing night. We will see our baristas tomorrow night, and we will see our everyone else at Coffee and Tea. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Stacked. You can whisper behind my back. You can show me how the odds are up against me all day long. But I've been through the fire and come out alive, and there's no more fear in my eyes. Oh, now I'm rising, and you can't bring me down. You can't stop me now.